And welcome to the podcast. This is the first podcast that we're going to be doing like this, and my first guest is a Mr. Simon Bourne of the Hand-Dyed Shoe Company, although my understanding now is that might not actually be the case. Simon, can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so I have, just I guess in the last few weeks, finalised what I'm calling it a transition into a new brand. So it's just a rebrand, basically, a new name, same business, same model, same concept, but the new brand is now called Jim Charles, which is my granddad, actually. So my granddad was Jim Charles, and he taught me a lot of things. And when I was trying to think of a new name for a rebrand, I kept naturally just sort of falling back. I wanted a good English name, a traditional English name. So if you look at like the shoe industry on a whole, a lot of the big brands, they're all named after somebody. And I was like, I need a good English name. And yeah, my thought process naturally was drawn to my granddad. So yeah, Jim Charles is the name for the new brand.
Fantastic. Is there a new website that's going to be happening around that or anything like that? What should people check out for that?
Yeah, new website, jimcharlesshoes.com. So that's live now. The old website essentially would just redirect you to the new website. There's some new things on there, some new styles, new colours, new models. Everything essentially, like I say, the concept is the same. It's a new name. I felt it just needed... It needed a refresh, and I needed a refresh. I needed something new. And the old name, I guess, Hand-Dyed Shoe Co. So I came up with Hand-Dyed Shoe Co. in 2014, it was, when I was working for a furniture company, which was called the Original Sofa Company. So it was kind of just what do you call a business? Well, that's what you call a business. I just kind of copied the flow of where I was working. And over the years, really, we've become less about the hand-dyed element of it and more around the customization and the choice element. And I felt like that it was slightly becoming misleading just a misunderstanding of actually what we do. So we would get a lot of calls saying, can you dye a handbag and things like that? And then the other thing was like, nobody could see it, which was deeply frustrating for me. Like everybody would say, is that the Hand-Dyed Shoe Company or the hand? And I'm like, it's not the handy dyed, but it's because the hand dyed, the double D,
all goes into
the double D. It just becomes like for a bit of a mouthful when you see it. So that's some of the reasons why.
So you've already covered a little bit of the creation of the whole concept there. You were working at the Original Sofa Company that evolved into the Hand-Dyed Shoe Company. Just can you tell me a little bit why you wanted to work for yourself?
I remember when I was 16, 17, and I was at work, and I'd come out of college and didn't really know what to do with my life. Who does at that age, And I remember coming home and telling my dad that I was going to start a business, which was writing CVs for people, because I loved working on computers. At school, I'd done quite well in IT and that type of thing. And I figured, I'll start a business writing CVs for somebody. And like all good dads, he told me to stop being stupid and go and get a job. So that's what I did. So I guess my point being is I'd always had an ambition to work for myself in some capacity. Never had the confidence, never had the self-esteem, the security around me, and the finances or any of that stuff that society would expect that you need to start a business. So therefore I never did. And it was working at the Original Sofa Company. So I worked for an entrepreneur, a guy who ran a small business. And we had big ambitions, big plans, like all small businesses do. And I found that after, maybe 18 months to 2 years of working there, that I was just becoming more and more frustrated because I wanted to control things myself. I wanted to make the decisions myself, and I wasn't the person in control of it. And naturally you start to think, well, if I was I'd do this differently. I would do this and I would do that. And then that develops into frustration, and then the frustration led to, right, okay, I'm going to do something about it. So, would
you describe? So, I mean, obviously, I've started on my own with my business, and people often tell me how brave a decision that is. To me, it never felt brave. I don't want to put words into your mouth regarding that, but to you, was it a brave decision? Did it take a lot of courage, or was it something that you just go on?
It wasn't a brave decision. No, it was entirely natural. The brave decision was leaving employment and going full time on it. I think that was a brave decision. But getting off my backside and going and doing it and creating a website and finding a supply chain and designing packaging and building processes and things like that. That was entirely natural. It was never brave. It was just pure passion. Like, I want to do this. So therefore, when like everybody says, you don't work when it's a passion, you just do it.
Absolutely.
And that was what it was. So like I would just spend hours and hours and every given spare minute that I had just developing this idea. And that might just be sending some emails or speaking to some business advice groups and things like that. So I spent certainly back in 2014, 15, 16, spent a lot of times meeting with like networking groups and things like that were designed to support people trying to enter business, and just learning and getting more information behind me to be able to then take it to the next step.
Out of those elements you've just talked about there, like networking groups, was there anything that you found particularly useful, particularly helpful? For example, if you're going to advise other people, you maybe say you should check this group out, you should look at doing this.
Yeah, I mean the biggest asset that I had in those times was when I first met an accountant. Now, it wasn't the best accountant that I'd ever had. I have a very different accountant these days.
So he's not watching.
Yeah, hopefully. If you're watching, I apologise. I won't mention names. But they weren't the best. But all of a sudden, just having somebody there who I could turn to for a little bit of advice and take away the worries, because my biggest worry for setting up a business was always the financial side of it. Like, what happens if this happens? And the last thing we all want is like a big tax bill or something like that. The
legal side of it.
The legal side of it.
Get yourself a good accountant.
Get yourself a good accountant. I have to say it. It's so yeah, like I've had 3 accountants over this journey so far. 4 actually. Sorry, wow. 4 accountants. And that's because just different needs, different times, bigger budgets, all that type of thing. But that was a game changer for me, getting that, because then all of a sudden in my mind, they take care of that. All I have to do is go and do that.
You can get on with
I can go and do the stuff that I love and I care about.
What you're passionate about, and then you're sort of outsourcing those jobs.
Correct,
That's great. I mean, we've talked a lot about some of the things that you found inspiring. I think, crucially, one thing that I'm wanting to cover in this podcast and podcast moving forward are kind of the challenges that the things that the likes of you and I and any number of other people will go through. What would you say have been the main challenges that you've faced? I know obviously you've had some pretty big ones that you've spoken about very publicly, and credit to you, really honestly. And I think that is to your credit, and I think a lot of people feel that way, certainly from the responses that I've seen on Facebook.
Yeah.
Are you happy to talk about those challenges?
Of course, yeah. Like, so, I mean, the obvious one was the liquidation of my company in 2022, so January 2022, followed by my personal bankruptcy. So I had to declare myself bankrupt to the Insolvency Service in April 2022, so a few months later, on the back of personal guarantees that I'd signed as the director of the business, that had subsequently failed. And obviously all of that came about on the back of the COVID pandemic. So if we talk about like isolated challenges, shall we say, obviously the pandemic is the big one. It's the big, it's like, there are far wiser, greater, stronger, richer entrepreneurs who have suffered mentally, physically, literally, emotionally, everything, far greater than I, coming out of that pandemic. I believe, like, there are people who lost millions, you know what I mean, because of it.
Absolutely.
There are also people who gained
millions,
you know what I mean? And I'm very much of the ilk that there is all's fair in love and war, which I hate that expression, but like there are always winners and losers in every situation.
Love, war, and business.
Exactly,
absolutely.
In business.
It's,
So challenges wise, the pandemic was
very good of you to look at it like that.
Well, yeah, because otherwise, what do you do? What, pity yourself, like, oh, it all happened to me,
I think that's
I could have been lucky. And there could be another pandemic that comes in the future that works in my favour in a different type of way. Who knows? You know what I mean? And that's the way I do tend to look at it. But yeah, obviously, the pandemic. What am I going to do? How am I going to do it? How am I going to get through this? Making really, really difficult decisions, or not making them, which was probably my mistake, and then liquidation, bankruptcy. Those challenges are unprofound, you know what I mean? Like, those are situations that I would never wish on anybody, do you know what I mean? And
absolutely
so to flip it, if I like, I always say my greatest success is the very fact that I'm sitting here now talking about it. Do you know what I mean? Because I own it. I own it. I embrace it. It is what it is. I'm not ashamed of it.
You've kind of gone a stage further than that, haven't you, rather than just embracing it?
Yeah.
You've actually written a book about it,
I have, yeah.
Can you maybe tell us a little bit about how?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, one thing that I think is absolutely amazing about you is I've seen videos that you've shared yourself at your worst, which I'll be honest, I found upsetting.
Yep.
You know, you're a friend. It's upsetting seeing someone that you know, that you care about, feeling like that. But to then take that and spin it and actually produce a book about it, and get a win from something like that, I think it's nothing short of phenomenal. So can you tell us a little bit about that book?
Yeah, Sold Out, SOLED. So there's a bit of a pun on that, Sold Out.
A little bit of play on words, always good.
Sold Out, Bankruptcy, My Greatest Achievement. So I wanted to write the book. I was, throughout 2022 and last year, 2023, it was at times very, very difficult. And there were lots of times when I was very poorly with my mental health, suicidal. And the story came about, I went to the doctors. The doctor did all the usual things, you know, referred me to Talking Changes, gave me some sertraline, and suggested maybe I should try writing down how I feel. Yeah. So I came home that day and I said, yeah, okay, I'll write down what I feel. And I think I did it for about 3 days before I sort of went, I'll be all right, carry on. Didn't take the tablets properly, maybe took one every 4 days or something like that.
My understanding with the tablets is that they make you feel like you're not yourself. And therefore, people often are reluctant to take them. Is that?
A lot of people say that. I have to say that hasn't been my experience of it. Right. I feel like I'm exactly the same person that I was before I started. I take one every day now. Right. And I'm the same person, just a little bit more in control, I guess.
You're not someone that would warn people off the tablets.
No, not at all, not at all. You know, like people say about the tablets, and I talk about this, and this is something I am quite passionate about. In fact, I'll just finish that story because I'll lead on to this, and I think why I am passionate about it. So I wasn't taking the tablets properly. Once every 4 days, I'd wrote down my feelings for maybe 2 or 3 days or something like that, and I'd made a call to Talking Changes and never followed it up. And about 3 months later, I found myself back in the same spot, crying, brokenhearted, destroyed. I'm a failure, absolute zero self-esteem, massively insecure, couldn't face the days, lying in bed, just wishing the day, you know, from the minute you open your eyes, just wishing it was bedtime again so that the day could just pass and it's done, and I could just be asleep where nothing matters when you're asleep. And I found myself back in that position again, and I had a particularly tough day. And Lauren, my wife, said, "You need to go back to the doctors." And I resisted, and I said, "What's the frigging point? Like, you know, what's the point? Like, they're just going to give us tablets. Tablets do nothing unless circumstances change. Nothing's going to change. Do you know what I mean? It's the circumstances that are making me feel ill. So therefore, there's no point in any tablets. There's no point in writing anything down. There's no point in it." So then, so I. Obviously, what am I supposed to do? I've got to listen to my wife. I can't ignore her. So I went back to the doctors. Yeah.
Wife always knows best.
Quite right. So I went back to the doctors, and the first thing the doctor said was, "How's the sertraline going? Tablets?" I says, "I take one every, I don't know, just like, you know, I take them as and when." "Well, why?" "Well, I just forget to take them." "Right. Well, could you come up with a routine or some sort of process to enable you to take them? Because, you know, you're back here 3 months later, having been here and asked me for my advice, and I've given you my advice, and you haven't actioned any of it." Do you know what I mean? And it was a big wake up call, and I was like, Jesus, I haven't actually actioned any of this. Like, I'm here asking for help, wanting to be better, wanting things to be fixed, and I'm not taking the professional advice from a doctor, very qualified doctor, to make myself better. So I said, "Okay, yeah, prescribe me the tablets again. I promise I'll take them. I promise to take them." And she says, "And how about the writing stuff down?" Well, I tried. I've got a book and I've scribbled some notes on the side of my bedside cabinet, this, that, and the other. And she said, "Right, okay, is there any other way you could do it if that's not working for you? I says, well, I could try typing. That was a game changer, Barry. Yeah. You can try typing. I went home that day. I've never missed a tablet since that day. That was at the doctor's. And I started to type on the computer. I can type. I can't write.
That is interesting, actually, because research that I've checked out myself on that kind of topic, it does suggest that handwriting is more personal and might be more beneficial, but you found that was the opposite for you.
I go back to my story before about the CVs. I've always enjoyed computers. For some reason, it goes back to being a teenager or whatever. I like being at a computer screen. I feel at home at a computer screen. I love language. I love communication.
Did you enjoy school very much?
No, I was quite a poor academic. Sort of a
so maybe something of
C's and
well.
D's, and that's with my GCSEs. I wasn't particularly very good, and I was a bit of a naughty boy, not a naughty boy, but a disruptive boy. That's what I was. I was disruptive.
Preventing other kids from learning. There we go.
Stop swinging on your chair. I'm going to still swing on my chair. Like, don't tell me what to do. Yeah. Big ego, that sort of thing. Yeah. So I wasn't particularly very good at it, but like I say, there was 2 or 3 things at school that I was quite good at. One was English and one was IT. 2 things combined. I like to write. And that sort of thing. So I started to write, and that's where the book come from. That's where Sold Out come from. So I started, the first thing that I wrote about the day I opened the Word document was the worst day of my life, which was 23rd of December 21. And that was the day I realised this business is broken. It cannot be fixed. It is in so much debt. I've messed up big time. I now have no members of staff left. Everybody's left. I'm on my own. There's nothing left. It's time to end this sort of thing. Well, I'll spare the story of what actually happened on that day because it's chapter 1 of the book. And I think that, by the book.
No spoilers. By the book. No spoilers.
But the point being is, I dealt with that day. Yeah. I wrote it down. This is how I was feeling. It was black and white. I tried so many times to explain why I felt that it may be possible for me to end my life, leave my children, leave my wife, and everything's done, finished. Like, but how do you explain that to your wife, to people who you love? Like, it's very, very difficult, but I could explain it to that Word document. Yeah. And all of a sudden it went down and it flowed. And then naturally at the end of that, I then felt compelled to well, why did I end up there? Like, how do I explain why? Like, so then it was like, well, go back to the beginning almost. And it became, I guess it is a biography, I guess. But it's very much coming from that mental health side and, childhood into being a dreamer. Because I am not a negative person. And I think the natural assumption of somebody who is suicidal is that they are negative and that they feel sorry for themselves and they carry pity
myths.
And things like that.
So many myths.
Total opposites. I am glass half full. I am 3/4 full most of the time. I'm full of energy. I'm a dreamer. I'm a pusher of boundaries. I'm a wisher. I'm a pusher of other people, an influencer. I'm ambitious. I'm infectious. All of those things. So when those feelings aren't rushing through my body on a natural cause, then it comes the other side, and then that's when the danger comes, I suppose. Yeah. That I've lost my identity, I've lost my purpose in life. Do you know what I mean? Which is to do really fabulous things, and so yeah, that's where the book came about. I think there was 2 questions in there, and I just do want to go back to the tablets thing. I don't know what tablets do. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a doctor. Do they work? I haven't got a clue. What I know is the reason I take them, and the number one reason that I take those tablets every single day, is that I have a responsibility to my wife and to my kids. My responsibility is not to think about killing myself. My responsibility to them is to try and be the best dad and the best husband that I can possibly be. So if I don't take those tablets and I come home and I'm having suicidal thoughts, or I'm crying, upset, I'm a burden on my wife, on my kids, or whatever, I would expect her first question to be, are you taking your tablets? Because that the medical professionals have said that these tablets will help. Yeah. Right? So I have to make sure that my answer to that question is yes. Right? Because now I have credibility with my own wife and my own kids to say, I'm having a bad day today. I'm crying because of something genuine.
Yeah.
I am doing what I can. I'm taking control and I've taken responsibility. So I am taking the tablets. I don't know what they do. I don't know how they work, but frankly, I don't give a damn.
No.
What I care about is I'm going to trust that doctor, that they know what they're talking about. I'm going to take that tablet on a morning, and then if I have a tough day or something difficult comes up throughout this day, I've got the credibility in the bank to say to my wife, I've had a really bad day today, and the reason I'm upset is X, Y, and Z. Because if her first question is, are you taking your tablets? Do you need to go back to the doctor, or whatever it is that she might say?
Yeah.
The answer is, yeah, I'm doing my bit. I'm taking care of myself as much as I can. So, I always say tablets aren't the answer for everybody. It could be exercise, it could be talking, it could be hypnotherapy, it could be aromatherapy, it could be meditation,
whatever works,
whatever mindfulness. Yeah, it can be. But the point being is, what responsibility are you taking for your own mental health? Because if you're taking none and you're having a bad day, as far as I'm concerned, there's no credibility in the bank. No. You've got to take that first step, and that first step doesn't have to be almighty. It doesn't have to be like, right, okay, I'm sitting in an Andy's Man's Club group with all these people, and I'm out in my depth or whatever. Just one little thing. What can you do today to make your mental health a bit better? Because then you've got some credibility, and then you've got the right to ask other people to help you. That's my take on it.
So basically, if you can't see the end destination, you can't see where you're going, just concentrate on that first step. One tiny little step. Tiny little step. It doesn't have to be a big thing, just one tiny little step. Get some credibility in your bank, and then ask for help. Can I ask you, because we've talked about, I think, sort of myths surrounding people feeling like that. One thing that's always bugged me is when I've seen just idiots commenting on Facebook about suicide being selfish. Now, you kind of touched on that very briefly, and as regards to the first chapter of your book, what would you say to someone? What would you say to someone who ignorantly came to you and says, how could you think that is so selfish? What would you say to that person to change their mind?
I would say to them, well, I'll give you a very good example. I had a customer came to me who's followed me for years, only just before Christmas. And he came in, I didn't know who he was, but he'd followed me for a long time. And he said to me, he opened up and he said, I'm going to level with you. I don't get all this mental health shit. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't suffer with it. I don't understand it. He says, but when I see your posts, I know it's real. I know that it is a real thing. It is a real problem. It is a real pandemic, that there are people out there that do suffer with mental health. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, you've got to understand that everybody is different. Everybody is different. And I have no reason to disbelieve that he doesn't suffer with anything, and he has a very strong mind, and he is capable of doing whatever he wants, whenever he wants, because his mindset is very, very strong. Everybody has mental health. Everybody, even this guy, everybody. How we deal with it, that's what's different amongst all of us.
I do find it remarkable that if someone breaks their arm, we don't expect that they're going to have the same level of strength with that arm. Whereas if your brain suffers from an equivalent level of trauma, we're still thinking, all right, there are still people out there saying, get over it. And everyone, I mean, I was once chatting to someone in a pub, and there was a young lad locally that committed suicide, and there was one guy turned around and said, oh, well, we all get sad, and honest to goodness, it's like,
how can you
I don't think there's any excuse. I don't think there's any excuse in this day and age for that level of ignorance. But
I would agree. I would agree. It is quite an ignorant, but it's a lack of understanding from his part, isn't it? He doesn't understand it. He doesn't get it. He doesn't get it. Yeah, he doesn't get it. Like I know so many strong people, stronger than me, like tough, clever men and women. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Who have opened up to me because of the way that I'm open about it, and I just say what
And I think that's what's so fantastic.
Like, and I just go, yeah, I didn't expect that from you.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
No.
But that's the point, is like, we didn't expect it from anybody really, because who wants to listen to a sob story? Do you know what I mean? It's like a sob story, like there has to be, everybody has mental health.
Yeah.
And you've always got to be aware of it. And, you know, I just operate from a really simple place, and that's try and be kind. You don't have to understand it. You know, there's many issues in society today that I don't understand. Do you know what I mean? But I don't have to understand it. I'm open to it, and I just go, fair play. Like, do you know what I mean?
It's like an iceberg, isn't it? You know, sort of what you see of someone is
it's nothing.
It's what they want you to see.
Exactly, it's 1%.
You've no idea what's going on in the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
We've spoken a lot there about, I suppose, sort of the downside of your business. What I would like for people to understand about you is quite remarkable successes that you have had. I know obviously you were on Dragon's Den.
Yeah.
I know you've got quite a substantial following on LinkedIn, and I'm just wondering if you could perhaps sort of maybe tell us something about those highlights of the hand-dyed shoe and that sort of build-up before the pandemic hit, because I mean I don't think there's any doubt whatsoever that someone could look at what you have achieved with your life and look at that as anything other than a roaring success.
Thank you. Yeah. 2019 was without doubt the greatest year of my life. Absolutely electric, like the things that happened to me in 2019. So at the beginning of the year, I got a phone call from a lady called Veronica from the BBC. I'd applied for Dragon's Den in 2017 when I just left employment. So it's December 2017.
Wow.
I just left employment. First thing I'm going to do, I've been watching this TV show for years. I'm going to apply for Dragon's Den. And I got a bounce back email, and it was like, you know, sorry, applications are closed. Get in touch next year, sort of thing. So I just forgot about it and moved on. And then in the January of 19, I got this phone call, and it was, you know, we got your application in 18 months ago. We'd love to talk to you about your business. Wow, amazing, right? Okay, so then about 2 hours later, this phone call, about 2 hours later it lasted. And at the end of it, she said, right, well, I need to speak to our producers, but, you know, I really like your story, and I like what you're about. I'll be in touch. And I knew there and then, I'm going on Dragon's Den. I'm going on, like, and it was a confidence.
How much did you ask for? How much was it for?
The actual show, or well, at that point on that application, I think I said 20,000 for 10% or something like that.
Right.
Where that came from, Barry, there's no.
I think that's pretty evident. From
you know when people say like, so you're putting that value on your business.
Yeah.
No, there was none of that. Like, I'm just making a number up and making a number up. Like, something that sounds like something I've heard before on the TV. Do you know? Like, there was no science behind it. There's no, why did I want the money? I didn't even know why I wanted the money. I just wanted to go on Dragon's Den. That's what I wanted. So,
and why not? Eh?
So, yeah, like, for me, it was just like, wouldn't it be so cool to go on there and just pitch your wits against them and just like have a little, just to see if you could get an investment, or, you know, would they love you? Would they not? You know, like, and things like that. Like, I love to be scared.
Yeah.
Right. Carry a bit of fear.
I've seen the clip, and I've seen the pitch, and I'll be honest, you didn't come across as scared in any way, shape or form, and the dragons all did seem to really like you.
Yeah, they responded well. Well. So the other thing is, so I was in that den for 2 hours and 15 minutes. That's how long I was in there. So from walking out the lift to walking back in it, 2 hours and 15 minutes.
And that's cut down to what?
8 minutes on TV. Wow. So there's 6 minutes actually in the den. So 1 minute walking on, 1 minute walking off. 6 minutes in the den. So the biggest fear obviously coming out of there is like, well, they can make you look however they want, because they had everything. They had me looking like a fool. They had me laughing. They had it going well. They had it going bad. They had it, they're in, they're out. Do you know what I mean? All of that. And that's the brilliant thing about the show, really, is that you've got to remember that it's a TV show. They're making a TV show. They want to build drama, suspense. They want to build a story, and then the story goes the other way. You know, there's nothing better. What, come dine with me? You know what I mean? Like, what, come dine with me? This guy's going to win. He's fantastic. Then somebody else wins. Do you know what? Like, that's the narrative, isn't it? So, but yeah, on the day, so this is the honest truth. On the morning of, so I'd set up my stand. So you had to build the stand in like a warehouse, how you want it to look in the den. They will then build it in the den for you. So when you walk out, that's the next time you see your stand. And I built my stand in the morning, and then the producers came around and they said, "So how much are you looking for, Simon?" And I says, whatever I said, 10%, 20 grand. And they went, this one of the other businesses asking for the same thing. Do you not think you could go a bit higher? And I went, oh, what, like 30 grand? 30 grand?
Thinking big.
Remember, I'm bloody making this up. So 30 grand, 40 grand? And they went, what's 70? I went, 75.
Like, get in.
75 for 20%. Yeah, do that. That's a good idea. So they briefed me up. So, which is fine. And again, why did they do that? Well, they did that because they're making a TV show. Yeah. And if everybody was the same, then they've got no content. No. So that was fine. So yeah, the Dragons responded well to it. They really liked it. I didn't get the investment. Sorry for any spoilers. Sorry, guys. I didn't get the investment. But you know, I was never there for the investment. I was there for the experience, and I was there for the PR and the marketing, the exposure, of which I all got. And the only issue being that was the 3rd of March 2020 when it went out on the BBC. By the 23rd of March, as we all know, we were in lockdown. So all the effort and the success that I was getting on the back of it being on TV was flushed essentially on the 23rd when we went into lockdown. So, which was a real shame. But you know, I wouldn't change that success. I also won a national award with Klarna, so the super bank, the P&3 guys. They ran a competition to find the next biggest thing in retail, and cutting a long story short, they chose me out of over 500 applicants. They came up and visited us. We had celebrities, Millie McIntosh and Hugo Taylor, who were from Made in Chelsea. Yeah, so they came up and we did this big like video and all this sort of stuff, and then went down to London for the big finale. And yeah, we were announced as the winner of that in 2019, which was incredible. And then yeah, let's not end on the bit that I shouldn't end on. My second daughter was born in December at the end of 2019 as well. Brilliant. So it was a great year. Brilliant. It was just amazing and massive success. We were trading really well. I was building the team. I managed to employ my sister and my mother-in-law and give them jobs. These are just personal successes, if you like. I flew my mum home from Australia. She was suffering a little bit with homesickness and things like that, and she'd lived in Australia for 20 years. And I'd earned a good crust that year, and I said, "Mum, don't worry, I'll fly you home for Christmas." And I paid for her to come home for Christmas, and I helped my sister out and things like that. So it's like, you know, actually, if I was to go, what were the success? Those were the success. It was amazing success, you know what I mean? And until the pandemic came, and then it kind of went a bit pear-shaped.
I think the crucial takeaway from this though is that you have done it. You've made a success of a business. Inevitably, there are setbacks for any business, and I mean, just life. Nothing stays the same. There are always ups and downs.
Barry, just so your question earlier, by the way, was what tell us about some of the successes. And the successes are those things that I've just said. And then you also said around, you know, if you break your arm, you don't recover. Absolutely. And this is the point that I'm trying to say is like everything, the suicidal thoughts, the illness, the mental health, all that sort of stuff, the feeling like a failure, all of those things. So the pandemic came, and then really that was the beginning of the end, if you like. So really, in let's just say March 2020, or shortly after, that's when I broke my brain. Do you know what I mean? Like, so that was when, that success that I've had and everything that was going so well is now not going so well, and I'm in trouble. And then the decline really was all through the pandemic, and then coming out of the pandemic. Right, when I say out of the pandemic, are we ever out of it? Are we still in this? I think we're probably still in it in some degree. So April 2021, when we finally, right, okay, everybody back to work, no problem, there's no pandemic anymore, the end of the final lockdown, shall we say. So supposedly that was back to normality. Well, my customers didn't come brain down the door on April the 1st when we got back to work, you know what I mean? It wasn't like that at all. So by December, that's when my business was, as I said, that was when it was truly in trouble and when I hit my lowest point, and you know, when my brain was truly broken. And then throughout 2022 and then also 2023, I've had to recover, and I've had to, you know, I've had to walk around with a sling on my brain, if that's the best metaphor I can come up with. I broke my brain and it needed to recover, and it's taken nearly 2 years really for me to do that. Do you know what I mean? And just some elements still going on. I'm not fully there. Do you know what I mean? But I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good. And I think so. Just back to the point: massive success, massive highs, but then there's that break in your brain bit, and that's the bit that it does take time to get through.
No, it's certainly an impressive story. I'm just wondering, because obviously part of what I wanted to do through this podcast is to kind of like sort of reach out to other people, normal people like yourself, like me, who are wanting to do something for themselves. They're trying to build up the courage to do something, possibly the courage, or they just need that push. What can you perhaps give us sort of a couple of tips, maybe sort of 3 top tips, what you would do starting again if you were starting from scratch now?
Are we talking about business? Getting into business?
Business.
What I would do starting again. Well, first of all, what would I do? I wouldn't do a great many things differently, Barry. That's why I'm struggling to answer the question. Is because if you're waiting for somebody to tell you what to do to start a business, you'll never do it. Right, you've just got to do it. Yeah. You've just got to do it. You've got to send an email. You've got to pick up the phone. You've got to speak to somebody. You've got to Google something. You've got to find out how you're going to do it and what you're going to do. And when I say that out, I don't mean the grand master plan. There's no 10-year plan here. There's no 20-year plan here. I mean literally, how am I going to do it? How am I going to do what? How am I going to create a logo for this idea that I've got? Well, Google how to create a logo, and you'll find something like Canva, or you'll find something like Photoshop, or Lightroom, or Fiverr.
Any AI.
AI, You'll find AI, and there you go. You've created a logo. There's your brand. What's next? Website. How are you going to create a website? Google how to create a website, or speak to somebody. How can I create a website? That's how it happens. So, and that's what I did. And so I wouldn't change any of that, because that's, you know, I made mistakes.
Did you create your own website?
Created my own website, yeah.
Right, so,
on like Shopify, if anybody wants advice. Or in fact, actually, my first one was on Wix, W-I-X. And today it's on Shopify, and I've built every website that I have, and it's cost very, very little.
I suppose that fits in with your skills, but the skills
of course,
that you don't have, like the finance.
Point being, exactly. I haven't got skills in finance, so therefore I need an accountant.
Buy that skill in.
Having said that, I have also done a bookkeeping course. I know how to bookkeep. I don't do my bookkeeping. I pay somebody to do my bookkeeping, but the point being is I know how to do it, because it's important to know about these things, but you don't have to be a master at these things. It's just to know about them so that you know that they're being done right. That was, again, one of my errors, and one of the things I learned from the collapse was like, well, how did this happen? Well, it was because I didn't really understand what things like directors' loans were. Yeah. I didn't know. I just thought, accountant does that. Like, you know, just turned a blind eye to it. That's not right. You have to know about it. But you don't have to know about it to start a business. You just have to know about it as you go through the process and as you learn.
So essentially you're taking the Nike approach and saying just do it.
Learn on the job. Yeah. Learn on the job. It's the best way to do it.
That's probably good advice, actually.
Yeah, and if you hit something that you don't understand or you don't know, it doesn't really matter. Just like either find out or just ignore it until it becomes something that you really now need to know about. Do you know what I mean? And that's the point. It's
interesting that you say that, because just with you mentioning Dragon's Den, there's such an emphasis on the planning, and when we look at The Apprentice, and it's like sort of Claude scrutinising business plans and ripping them to bits. And I often think about like my own business with a punctuation show, and it's like it just, on paper, it's like sort of why would anyone do that? But I've kind of managed to make it work for, I think it's 15 years this year. You know, you've just, and it's not about an end goal. I think in many respects, it's not about getting to. So it's about the journey.
It's just about wanting to do it.
It's about wanting to
do you want to do it?
Enjoying that journey. Just like really enjoy the journey and what you learn along the way and what you create.
Because I always say the answer to do you want to do it? If it's yes, and you're not doing it, the only reason why you're not doing it is an excuse.
Yeah.
That's the only reason, because you've just literally putting barriers in front of yourself, and yet you're answering yes. So I would push back and say, no, the answer is no. You don't want to do it because you're putting barriers in front of yourself.
And it's not for everyone.
Yeah, it's not for everyone. It's not at all. You know what I mean? But even I'm talking about things like, I'll give you a really good example. A friend of mine came to me recently and said that she wanted to be a nurse. She works in an office. I says, well, why don't you go and be a nurse then? Oh, I can't afford it. Right, I understand money's an issue. Money is always an issue. But if you want to be a nurse, you'll find a way.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You'll find a way of working financially for 3 years that you're going to have to go to university and do this, that, and the other. You'll find a way. Everybody Absolutely. Can find a way. There's a way, there is a path for everybody.
I think if I take you back to what you were saying earlier about when you left your job,
yeah,
you didn't perceive that as a brave thing. It was something you kind of had to do.
It was natural. It was time.
For me, I was exactly the same when I left my job. I mean, I had been putting preparations by like sort of building up sort of a few financial reserves. Obviously, keep the.
That's because you're sensible. I'm not sensible. I just go balls deep. I'm in.
I think there's many people that know me of old, sort of before I hit my 30s, that would strongly disagree with that. Fortunately, in the northeast where I live now, I don't think I know anyone that knows me prior to 30. So I'm going to stick with that.
With a bit of luck, this doesn't go viral, and all these people come out the woodwork. Barry's a liar.
What sensible him?
Sensible.
But, no, I'm happy to go with that. Obviously. Parish councillor, community centre committee. I'm a sensible person, right?
Sensible person. But the point being is, like, you know, you were. I'm sure you wouldn't change a great deal about your business. You know, back in the, you know, like, yes, you'll have made mistakes, but like honestly, like people make mistakes at school. People make mistakes in. I love football. Look at football. There's mistakes on the pitch. Referees, managers. Governing bodies, like there's mistakes every single day in football. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like, and it's exactly the same as life. It's just like, you know, and sometimes there are consequences to those mistakes. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I always say, like, if you are authentic and you're honest and you just own those mistakes, then you're a good person.
I think fundamentally, if you haven't made any mistakes,
you're a liar.
You've never done anything.
You've never done it. Yeah.
If you've not made any mistakes, if you can't think, oh my God, look at that, or I should have done that. You've never done anything.
Yeah, and I am the biggest advocate. Like, people always say, like, well, why would you go into business if you suffer with like anxiety or stress and things like that? And I'm like, literally, being in business is the most healthiest thing for me. Yeah. It is the healthiest thing for me, because employment, I feel like someone's got a hold around my neck all the time. Like, and I can't express myself, and I can't do the things that I think are the right things to do. There's probably a bit of ego in there, and I fully accept that.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that, though.
But no, it's just I own who I am. I know what I am. I know what I'm good at. I know that that what I'm not good at. And one thing I'm not good at is controlling my emotions. So therefore, in employment, somebody says something to me, and my emotions just go whoosh straight away. At the same time, in business, I'm not very good at controlling my emotions. So therefore, if I receive criticism or an upset customer, that can affect me quite deeply. But then at the same time, it's those emotions that make the business so engageable in the first place, because emotions are things like passion, love, determination, you know, like enthusiasm, as well as sadness, anger, frustration. Do you know what I mean? Like, it comes in the twofold.
Absolutely. I think it's interesting because you mentioned people make mistakes at school. I think almost at school, and I see this in like my daughters and their friends. There's a real reluctance at school. People, it's almost like mistakes are discouraged. We don't want to make
chastised.
Mistakes. And I do think that needs to change. I mean, I'm sure there are a number of teachers will be shouting at this. No, we don't do that. We want to, but certainly. As I say, young girls, they want the neat handwriting. They want that. They're really reluctant to make mistakes. I remember when I used to mark English essays, there was a top set class that I used to teach. I would refuse to mark anything if it came into me and it didn't have any crossings out.
Right.
Because it's like, right, you haven't read this, so why should I?
Yeah.
Go back and read it, because, I mean, as a former English
teacher,
mistakes, as a former English teacher, I can't write 5 sides of A4 without making any mistakes. I mean, maybe some people can. I'm not built that way. But if they're coming to me and they say, right, there's pristine beautifully written piece of writing is that is no good. You need to go back and you need to address that because you will have made mistakes. An examiner or your teacher's going to find those mistakes, and mistakes are part of the journey. Without mistakes, there's no learning.
Yeah, I had a similar sort of thing recently with my eldest, and her report, she does very, very well at school, but her report came back and it was that she struggles with her writing. And I was like, right, okay, in what sense? And it was basically, the comment was built around that when she's writing, she makes quite a lot of spelling mistakes because she knows what she's writing, but she's in that much of a rush to write what she's writing that she's just not thinking about the spelling side of it. And my immediate response to that was like, I was dead proud. I was like, do you know why that's happening? And I'll tell you exactly why that's happening. Because her brain is so creative that she is literally thinking about the next sentence before she's written the sentence that she's writing.
Absolutely.
That's what's happening. So for me, it wasn't a problem at all. And I was just like, do you know what? Spelling, like, who cares? The spell checkers, you know what I mean? There's ways and means these days. I'm more proud. I'm proud.
You never have a calculator in your pocket all the time. Like, hello.
Yeah, hello. What's this? iPhone 75. But yeah, I was just proud of it, and I was just like, you know what? That's no issue for me at all. That's brilliant, because that for me tells me that going into secondary school, going on to higher education or work employment in the future, whatever, that bit of creativity is the bit that people will really want, especially in this modern day. So yeah, like I would agree with you.
Absolutely. I think to sort of look at, we've talked about the past, we've talked about your ups, we've talked about your downs. I think we'll probably best finish on what the future holds for you now. Obviously, you just had a rebrand. We mentioned that already. Yeah. What can you tell us about your future, where you're headed?
Yeah. Well, two things. I'm proud as punch of the book. It's called Sold Out: Bankruptcy, My Proudest Achievement.
We'll get a link somehow to that, but we'll get a link. So Amazon.
Yeah, search for it on there. So I'm proud as anything of that, and I'm really excited by the opportunity that presents itself for me to be able to inspire and influence other people. So hopefully, in the way that I've spoke today,
you've had a lot of people reaching out to you.
Yeah, like hundreds. I mean, literally hundreds of people. Which is just amazing. It's fantastic. But my response to them, or everybody who kind of reaches out and says, like, I've got an issue or I'm struggling or whatever, is also, it's always, what are you doing about it? Because I can't help you if you're not helping yourself. Do you know what I mean? Like, you have to do something first, and then I'm all open. Come to me. I can help. If I can help, I will. Let's have a phone call, whatever. But the point being is, like, I can't fix anybody. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a mental health doctor. I'm just somebody who has been through it and wants to use the story for some sort of positivity rather than just bury it under the carpet. That for me would have been the biggest failure of this whole last few years, is had I been through all of that and I'd not used it for something. Do you know what I mean? So, like, I guess that's just an entrepreneurial kind of brain, isn't it?
I think that's it. Yeah, just use what you've got. Whether you're angry, use it. Whether
use
you're
it.
upset,
It's got to be for something. Otherwise, what's the point?
Absolutely.
Like, what's the point of living those emotions and going through the suffering? So the book, I want to hopefully get that out as far and wide as I can. But then also, like, speaker events and schools, universities, things like that. I'd really love to speak to young people about mental health and particularly young guys. I'm doing some work with Andy's Man's Club, supporting them. And obviously with the shoes and the rebrand, Jim Charles, have some big plans for 2024, looking at potentially a franchising route, and some opportunities with third parties to get involved with the brand. And so yeah, like, I just want to keep pushing it, keep doing what I love.
Fantastic.
And let's see what the future brings.
So we've had ups, we've had downs. Let's just hope that we've got some big ups coming. Simon, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I've really enjoyed this. If you do want to check out Jim Charles, we will get a link to the website somehow, or at least put something on screen. But Simon, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.